Thank you, Madam Chair. The applicant is requesting to amend the future land use map designation of the subject property from commercial and industrial to high-density residential. The subject property is currently undeveloped and located west of the intersection of Highway 155 South and Greenwood Industrial Parkway. The Henry County Comprehensive Transportation Plan shows Highway 155 as a proposed future widening candidate, and the existing transportation infrastructure and planned improvements along with the existing commercially and industrial zone properties. This area can be considered an extension to the existing non-residential developments occurring in this corridor. Pardon me, a little under the weather tonight, so pardon me, please. The applicant's request to amend the future land use map designation of the subject property would allow residential encroachment into future industrial areas and would thereby technically not follow the policies outlined in the Henry County City's Joint 2030 Comprehensive Plan. On September 17th, 2015, this case was presented to the Zoning Advisory Board, having a staff recommendation of denial, and the Zoning Advisory Board in turn recommends to the Board of Commissioners denial of the applicant's request. And with that said, I'd be happy to answer any questions you have at this time.
Okay. Are there any questions from the board before we enter into a public hearing? Is the applicant here as well?
Yes, the representative is here.
Okay, we'd like to hear from the applicant as well.
Good evening. My name is Rob Jordan. I represent the owner and applicant of the property. The request tonight is to amend the land use plan to allow for the continued development of this parcel into a mixed-use concept, which would complement the commercial zone property that's already zoned up front that can be seen in this depiction with the multifamily component behind it. The property is owned by the applicant, and the size and shape of the property are much more conducive for a walkable mixed-use community than it is for an industrial park, and that's the reason for this this request. So I'll answer any other questions that you might have.
Okay. Are there any questions before we enter into the public hearing? Okay. Commissioner Clemens.
Dante, they're asking for a high-density residential. I'm only concerned about the residential part. I think the commercial piece is definitely what's needed there, but talk to me about the residential piece. If this is high density, what does that look like as far as numbers?
High density would allow up to 16 dwelling units per acre per our current comprehensive plan 2030. Medium high density will allow up to 6 dwelling units per acre, and that will fall under the medium to high density, and then there's high density, which will have the up to 16.
I want to ask the applicant, would they be amenable to the medium? I can tell you right now, I will not support the high density.
Yes.
And what that will put us at what, Dante?
At max 6 units, dwelling units per acre.
So I have a concern based on this. This is commercial. This is more of a mixed use. So why are they asking for high density residential? Isn't there something could we ask for just a mixed use?
Well, technically, an applicant can request what they are pursuing per their own decisions. If they are looking, or if mixed use is the end goal, then it would need to be a future land use that will allow a mixture of uses that will encompass both commercial and potential multifamily, or commercial with single family units or residential units above. So you would need a density range that will permit that type of use. Does that answer your question, Commissioner?
Yeah.
Okay.
What about planned development?
That's an old zoning designation or future land use designation, and with those planned developments, there were pods. The pods would have commercial, industrial, residential, so on and so forth.
Did we get rid of the planned development?
Yes, we don't have that anymore. Mixed use replaced it.
Okay. Okay.
Commissioner Clemens, this The mixed-use nature of it would come from the fact the front was zoned commercial in 2009. So the commercial and retail is in place from an entitlement standpoint. The multifamily would be the next step, and that's what I'm referring to when I mentioned mixed use.
Right. And I just want to say, and for the record, I think they have been trying to get this stuff done since 2009.
Just about.
And the county has changed a lot since 2009, and I know that the residents down there don't want any more warehouses. And if we're not going to get any more warehouses, we have to decide what will we get that we would, you know, be okay with. Commercial is definitely better because it'll bring the jobs, the businesses in that area, and we can get some tax-paying businesses out there for the county to help with our infrastructure. How much of this is businesses? How much of this is commercial?
So about 48 acres, so you've got about 8 acres of commercial zoned up front now. And so 40 acres behind it, but that 40 acres would have about 20 acres of open space based on just good planning for a Class A community back there. So you really would have a lot of buffer area. In fact, there's about 8 acres in the very back of the property that would be a complete undisturbed buffer as it backs up to the Hunter's Chase community. So this idea of having the multifamily behind it at a pretty lower density would allow probably the most open space you could get out of any kind of use.
Okay. Dante, is this the part on 155 that I was trying to get pulled out of the warehouse OI where I wanted to put the overlay to make sure, can we do anything with this as far as?
The subject property does not touch Highway 155, so the overlay is not applicable. But the commercial zone properties that are in front of this property that actually touch 155, the overlay will apply.
Okay, and that's not there already?
I'm sorry.
That commercial piece is not there already?
The parcel outlined in green is what we are considering tonight, and the current zoning is a mixture of actual industrial and commercial, but the zoning of the properties that are in front are already commercial. They're already zoned CT.
Are the properties in front owned by the same applicant?
Yes, ma'am.
I don't know if, Patrick, can we make sure that those come up to the overlay standards, the property in front?
Well, I think they would. I mean, Dante, would the overlay apply? I think the overlay does apply to those commercial parcels, doesn't it?
Unless they were a part of those parcels that are in front, and those are two separate tracks, the overlay does not apply. So if the commercial tracks in front and the larger track in the back were one contiguous parcel, then the overlay, and then they split it, the overlay would apply in that regard. But as of right now, because the larger track does not touch Highway 155.
No, I think the question is, does the overlay apply to the commercial parcels?
Yes, the commercial parcels, yes.
So the overlay already applies to the commercial parcels at front Highway 155?
But they're
Right.
already developed.
No, they're
No.
undeveloped.
They're not
This is
developed. Okay,
undeveloped.
good. Okay. Anybody else have any questions?
Are there any other questions by the board? Okay, Commissioner Barham.
Dante, it's zoned M1 now, light manufacturing. Can you kind of go through what can be done with that piece of property?
Our light manufacturing, it allows warehousing. A lot of what you already see in that corridor, you have the Luxottica, you have the warehousing along Greenwood Industrial Park that span at least a mile and a half or two heading east. And so for the most part, you would probably look at potentially the same as what's already out there, and that is the warehouse distribution type of use.
Okay. Now, looking at staff's recommendation, y'all recommended a denial. Can you tell us why you did that?
This request has been on our books for 2 years. Next month will be 2 years. So in 2015, they submitted their request to change the future land use and map from the commercial industrial to the multifamily. And they also requested to rezone the track to RM, which is for multifamily. And so with our policy and objectively reviewing this, the current future land use map does not support on that track a multifamily zoning. What it supports is commercial and industrial. And so that's how staff got to our recommendation of denial, because of what our future land use, which serves as our policy guide for the future potential uses on those specific parcels.
Thank you.
Other questions from the board? Okay, well, we'll now move into the public hearing regarding this business park. And again, we'll allow those a total of 10 minutes for those that wish to speak in opposition. And then again, likewise, there will be 10 minutes granted to those wishing to speak in favor. So we'll begin the public hearing at this time and ask that you would please come forward, state your name and address, please, for all of those that want to speak. And be sensitive to those that are behind you. If there are any others want to speak on behalf in opposition. So thank you.
Okay. Carl Swinson, 43 Thurman Road, Stockbridge, Georgia, the unincorporated part. Before I get started, June, the code section in question that I'm talking about is, excuse me, ordinance number 03-06, subsection 8, that was brought to bear on October 21st of 2003. Please read that, because you're putting the other guys here in a kind of weird situation. All right. Like we just saw with the McCrates, you just voted to give them these 19. That's a special deal. Just like this one is going to be a special deal. I heard him say that there's going to be 20 acres that's going to be set aside for whatever, green space, whatever you want to call it. That's a ploy that's used time and again, and successfully too. But I need to tell you that when you do that, you are taking tax dollars off the books. Let me explain. You're looking here at the development for Heron Bay. Now, this is a residential development, but you see all that property that's outlined? You see what the land value is for that? 197.15 acres. That's the green space, okay? Off the books. Off the books. We've got over 300 of those in the county. Property taken off. Why? Because it is easy to make the money on that which is developed and then just say the heck with the rest. And if you guys go along with it, which you did in 2011, now I granted some of you weren't here in 2011, but in 2011, you basically gave the farm away. Over 300 properties? Okay. Here's another one. High density. 7.45 acres. Off the books. $100 valuation. I could go on and on and on. But let me take one in particular here that's real close to that area. Very close. Come on, baby. Anyway, right on 155, there's another property that is equally disturbing if I can lay my hands on it. Ah, here it is. I don't know exactly how close this is, or maybe if it's even part of it. I don't think so. But I want you to look at this because this is commercial property, and everything not in these boxes here, the parking lot, some of the green space here, prime commercial property. I want you to look at the land value, $100. Who is helping who? Special deals for special people? Sure does sound that way, but the taxpayers, what about the taxpayers? Because we're getting it coming and going. You just increased our taxes. 300 such. I won't bore you with them right this moment, but this is all part and parcel to what we're dealing with. And the only other thing that I want to add to this is that you already know what the traffic problems are on 155. And you want to add more to it? Come on. Get the infrastructure working first, as all regular governments would do. Get it working first. 4-lane it, do something. Give these people a break before you start putting these projects on the books. They've waited for 2 years. I'm sure they can wait until you get the infrastructure there for them. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to speak in opposition? Calling again. Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition? We will now call for those wishing to speak in favor of at this time. Okay. Good evening. Please state your name and address, please.
Good evening, Clayton Cart, 1503 South Bethany Road in Locust Grove, District 1. I personally drive by this plot 3 to 4 times per week using Greenwood Industrial on my way home. When you look at the future land use map, much of this land is currently zoned industrial for the future map. 155 is warehouses up and down. Many citizens of this county do not want more warehouses. And also I could not see commercial building that far back off the main highway either, since frontage is so major in commercial. 3 sides of the property are already residential. I think residential is a good spot here. Our population is going to continue to grow, and high-density lots near the interstate help preserve areas like Kellytown and Locust Grove in low density. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak in favor? Call it again. Anyone wishing to speak in favor? Well, this now concludes our public hearing. We'll ask Mr. Gibbs to come forward again. Of course, the applicant. Are there any questions or comments from the board? Hearing none, the floor is now open for a motion.
I want to just make another comment. I'm sorry, Chair. Dante, would you please put it back up where it is, where it shows the residential around that area? It's the other map. Yep. Yep, right there. And so the red and the green is what we're talking about, correct?
Here's an aerial that will help if that's even better. This is the subject property here.
Yep.
And here are the residential. This is part of a planned development, so that's a residential pod. But then there's also a residential properties here to the north of the property. So you're looking at property that's currently zoned R3 to the north. And then again, this is the PD that I mentioned just a moment ago. That's part of the planned development there, and it's a residential pod.
Okay, so that yellow is residential.
Yes, it's R3.
Do we know how many houses are right there?
Presently, I do not know,
Okay.
but under the R3 zoning, it's
R3.
18, the minimum lot size is 18,000 square feet.
Okay, and then the purple is residential already?
Purple here?
Yep. Is that
Yes,
purple?
that's part of a planned development, so it's a residential pod.
Okay, so if we don't approve this, we're gonna dump that warehouse in the green space, if it becomes a warehouse, right in the backyard of the District 2 residents down there, correct?
Potentially, yes.
Okay. I move to make a motion that we do not allow this applicant to do a high-density residential in that area. But if he's amicable to doing a medium density, limited to 6 per acre based on whatever they're proposing there, I want to make sure that that condition is in place so that we don't get a whole lot of people in there. But definitely I would prefer to see residential than another warehouse in somebody's backyard.
So there's a motion to amend the comprehensive plan, but noting for medium density of mixed use.
Correct.
Okay, we have a motion. Is there a second?
I second it.
There's a second. Any discussions or questions from the board? All in favor? You have a question? No? Okay, all in favor? Any opposed? Okay, all right, so that motion was denied. Now we have, the floor is now open for a motion. Other motions regarding this at all? No? Okay.
About a motion and everybody like warehouses.
Okay. All right, well, thank you. I was trying to, County Attorney, I was trying to understand if I needed to do any other motion, but it sounds like
The
not.
board needs to act on it. There needs to be an affirmative motion to either approve or deny.
And it
So
was denied.
I think well, there was no motion to deny. I think the proper method would be a motion to deny.
Okay. So the floor is now open for a motion
To deny.
to deny, because we just, again,
I'll make a motion to deny.
there is a motion to deny. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a second. Any other questions or comments? All in favor? All opposed? Chair abstain. All right. We'll now move into the second item regarding the RACO Greenwood Business Park.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The applicant is requesting to rezone the subject property consisting of 40 plus or minus acres from M1 light manufacturing to RM multifamily residential for a proposed multifamily apartment development. The proposed site plan identifies a development of approximately, it's probably different now because this was based on 2 years ago, but it's roughly 275 units within 12 three-story apartment buildings. The proposed net density is 7.30 units per acre. In addition to the property being undeveloped currently, the subject property is located in the Indian Creek Long Branch Reservoir watershed area and must meet the guidelines for the limited development area set forth by the Henry County Watershed Protection Ordinances. What this means is that they will be limited to 25% maximum impervious, and their current plan shows approximately 27% impervious surface coverage, and this is based on our review 2 years ago. Things may have shifted since then. The limited development area limitations may reduce the ability of the site to develop as proposed on the site plan due to the size of the property. Nevertheless, the request is inconsistent with the future land use map designation of the subject property, and it is inconsistent with the industrial and commercial character of the area and inconsistent with the policies of the comprehensive plan. So on September 10th, 2015, Planning and Zoning staff recommended denial to the Zoning Advisory Board, and the Zoning Advisory Board recommends denial of the applicant's request to the Board of Commissioners. I'm happy to answer any questions you have at this time.
Okay, are there any questions from the board before we begin the public hearing?
I would ask that the applicant table this until we can get people that are not pro-warehouses on this board.
Okay, we, again, are in a public hearing aspect of it, and we've heard from a commissioner, and she's made a motion, so County Attorney, I'm trying to get some clarification on that. We still got to go through the public. I'm sorry?
I don't think that was a motion.
Yeah, okay, well,
Well, I don't know that it's, can we even make it since the,
Yeah,
it doesn't even,
yeah,
since we denied the first one, I don't know that we can even,
You have the authority to approve a rezoning that's inconsistent with the future land use map. You can do it. I don't know
Right.
that it's a good idea or not.
well, and my question as well is, this is a public hearing.
Well,
So, yeah, we're both trying to get clarification.
if the applicant wants to withdraw, he can withdraw, but the board can't withdraw on his behalf.
Just for clarity, withdrawal would mean the application is no longer in consideration. Postpone or tabling would be a postponement of the application. And also, this is just a general statement for everyone. We have begun our update of our comprehensive plan and future land use map in partnership with the Atlanta Regional Commission. So it is possible that in our research and our analysis and in all of our information that we get from the community in this effort, that things may shift as far as the future land use of this area once we get to that point. It's not due to the Department of Community Affairs until October of 2018. So we have another year and some months before the final product is done, but we have begun the process. So there's a possibility that things could shift. There's no guarantee, but there is a possibility.
I have a question in reference to
Okay.
that. But that would allow them to do the commercial component
Yeah, they
right
can still,
now.
currently, they
So
can
that
still
would
do the
allow them to do the
commercial.
commercial component right now, which is what I would like to see them do. And then by the time it comes back to the ARC, if they said that this shouldn't be residential, then we go with it. But at this point, if that first part is commercial, we're getting tax dollars, they go ahead and do some walking facilities around there, then we can look at it. But I don't want to see it denied and then they have to wait. You know, I just rather see them go ahead and show good faith and do the commercial component. then we'll see what the ARC says.
That is correct. The front parcels that abut 155 are currently zoned commercial, so they can develop it.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's move into the public hearing aspect of this. This is a public hearing, and so we would now again ask for those that would like to speak in opposition to the discussions regarding of this rezoning from M1 to RM, that you would please come forward now.
Do I have to do this again?
Yes, please. Thank you.
Carl Swinson, 43 Thurman Road, Stockbridge, Georgia, the unincorporated part. Thank you. Okay. Look, I agree with what you say about the commercial side so that we don't have more warehouses down there. But if you approve this, you're approving the whole thing unless you amend it right now, because the high density is part of this package. You can't have it both ways. So don't cut a special deal here and shortchange the people. No, we don't want any more big warehouses. Lord knows we don't. But at the same time, we don't want any more high density on a 2-lane road that is already congested as heck, and the people are suffering massively because of it. And that's all I've got to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition? Calling again. Anyone else speaking to, wishing to speak in opposition? We'll now grant up to 10 minutes to those that are wishing to speak in favor.
Thank you, Board. Clayton Cart, 1503 South Bethany Road, Locust Grove in District 1. I read hundreds of Facebook comments from Henry County citizens who do not want another warehouse. There are empty warehouses along West Ridge Industrial. There are empty warehouses along Georgia 155 that are brand new. If you leave it zoned industrial, a warehouse could come in tomorrow and build on that land. Thank you.
Thank you.
Simeon Nunnally, 134 Woodson Court, Stockbridge, Georgia. I absolutely do agree with this as well. We have way too many warehouses here. That causes a lot of traffic. I've been getting tired of looking at warehouses ever since I've been here. I could get stuck on 75, even though they came in with the new roads on 75, but traffic is still horrible because of all the trucks and all the infrastructure that we have. I get stuck in traffic all the time, even when the versatile toll lane is going in the same direction as the flow of traffic. So if we bring in another warehouse, it'll just be more and more and more problems here in Henry County. So I do agree with a commercial space that could bring in more things and give Henry County a new look outside of just more warehouses. So I'm all in favor about this motion.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak in favor? Calling again. Anyone else wishing to speak in favor? Well, thank you. This concludes our public hearing. So we ask Mr. Dante and Mr. Gibbs and the applicant to come forth again. And we'll now just offer any comments from the board at this time. Any questions or comments from the board? Commissioner Clemens.
I would recommend that you table it.
Yeah, we would not be opposed to a tabling. I'd like to make one comment, if I could, about the property tax base commentary. You know, the green space in something like this is integrated. It's not set on the perimeter. It's integrated into the community that it houses. But maybe most importantly, a multifamily development of the scale of somewhere around 240 units would have a cost of about $33.5 million. Costs about $140,000 a unit to build each unit. So I would venture to say the tax base for a development like this would be much, much higher than a small warehouse building or several warehouse buildings. So,
thank you. Any other questions or comments from the board? Okay, the floor is now open for a motion. Oh, Commissioner Prince, you've got it.
I'll make a motion. I can make a motion to table this item.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Any other questions or comments? All in favor to table? Any opposed? Chair abstain. Thank you. Motion approved. Thank you.